On today's show, we've got to talk about Draymond Green's Superman punch, Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins getting paid, and the NBA season tips off Tuesday. So you know what that means. Lace them up and lock in. Let's go. JWJ.
Yo. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for sticking with us and listen up. I have to say, and I'm happy to say, it's not a solo effort this time. Everybody that listened to the last episode, you guys heard what I said. My man was down for the count, but guess what? He's back. My dude, my ace, my shooter, Shane. Welcome back. How you feeling, bro?
We back, and it's time to take over the world.
Yes, sir. So check it out. I'm gonna keep the analogy going. I told y'all, man, this is my big dog, my big man. He knows the joke. Look, he's here. He was down for the count last time. Kobe kept it going, and look, it's time to close it out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm turning it over. I'm gonna let my guy handle it. He has a whole episode planned out, and I'm telling y'all it's gonna be a banger. So please stick in. Hey, Shane, I'm sticking the lob from the elbow, and you already, I know you in position to go ahead and knock it down. So go ahead and do what you do, man. I'm following your lead on this one.
All right, man. Let's go, man. It feels good to be back. It feels like we haven't recorded together since like the summer. So
Forever.
I'm glad we're back doing this, man. And we got some more stuff to talk about. So naturally we got to lead off with the hot news right now. So obviously we had the Draymond Green punch. Um didn't look good. We saw the video.
Man.
Drops Jordan Poole, blackens his eye, but worked out pretty good for Jordan Poole. He actually just got a 4-year, $140 million extension. And if that's not enough, they go out and they re-up Andrew Wiggins as well. So 4 years, 109 million for Wiggs. Um, our early finals MVP pick, Andrew Wiggins. So
And still very deserving.
yeah, absolutely. Now, with the Draymond thing, so James, with that, man, like, let's just talk about that real quick. I mean, obviously, everybody's seen the video. We had heard a lot of stuff about Draymond striking Jordan Poole, and that was just putting it mildly. I mean, he cocked back and he turned the lights out on dude. So, like, let's just talk about the punch and like that whole situation.
First off, man, I don't care who takes it as a joke. I don't care who thinks it's funny or not. There's never been one day in the history of being a black person where somebody struck somebody. We don't strike. You got knocked the F out. That's all there is to it. We don't strike anybody. Nah, that's just softness for the news, bro. Nah, and when that video came out, I'm ashamed to say it. None of us were surprised with what we saw because that's what it is. Nah, ain't nobody striking anybody. The only strikes that I've seen are, dare I take a shot, watching the Braves get knocked out today.
Painful, painful.
Yeah, I hate to do it because I love my squad. But no, we don't strike anybody. When we swing, we aim to kill. And that's what Draymond did. that's what Draymond did. I'm gonna let you give a little bit, and then I'm gonna get back to how I feel. But yeah, we don't strike. Strike is an
And like,
interesting one.
so with that situation, with Draymond punching Jordan Poole, obviously there was something there. I wish we had got audio with this so we know like the exact context. All the hearsay, oh, Draymond's jealous because Poole is up for a contract extension or something like that. So he decides he's gonna knock the hell out of him just because. Um, I mean, the video, me. I mean, I'm sure I wasn't the only person. I mean, when I first saw the video, I was like, oh, and and Jordan Poole, like, he got hit and then you didn't see him no more, which I thought was kind of messed up. But I mean, he responded like, a pro is supposed to respond. I think he had like 25 points in the preseason in his debut.
Yeah.
So he didn't miss a beat. So I mean that's how you want him to respond. But I mean, given that they went ahead and the Warriors went ahead and decided, okay, well, we're gonna go ahead and give those extensions to Jordan Poole, to Andrew Wiggins, knowing that Draymond is up for a new deal coming up or whatever. Um, that's some news. That's significant because especially when you look at Andrew Wiggins, who's still very young, and Jordan Poole like what, 23?
I think he's only 23. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, those are two like very key pieces to what the Warriors do. So them giving those guys the extension, I think is big. Um it doesn't necessarily automatically mean that Draymond's out. They may be able to negotiate with him to take less money, maybe a shorter term deal with some money attached to it, or we could be looking at the end of it. I mean, Draymond could end up on another team. Everybody's trying to go ahead and put him on the Lakers. I don't know how you feel about that as a Laker fan, but yeah.
Golly, look, I I'm not gonna lie. I respect Draymond as a player. I mean, I think he's a heck of an athlete. I mean, at 6'5", 6'6", if you really look at what he brings to the table, I mean, he's got the rebounding ability, he's got the vision to see the floor. He's got the attitude. The only thing that he's missing to me is the scoring ability, and you're pretty much looking at another Charles Barkley. Like that's who he is. So I think that he's still very much valuable. Now, where I'm getting annoyed with this whole situation is, you know, that this is a business. You've said this on your podcast repeatedly. This is a business. I understand how this goes, but then you want to turn around and be salty. It's like that's where I kind of have an issue with it. Is you can't sit here and say in one breath that I understand this is what it is. These are my boys. You've been boosting them up yourself. There's footage, audio, video footage of you sitting here boosting up Jordan Poole for the last year or so, talking about how much of a dog he is and how he's not afraid to do this and do that. And now all of a sudden it's turning into a problem for you. It, to me, that does come off as kind of selfish, because if you're going to sit here and say, this is my guy, this is my boy, this, that, whatever, and then you turn around and now all of a sudden you have a problem with him for some unexplained reason, I'm not going to lie. I'm not looking at the young gun as a problem in that situation. I'm looking at you. So what's the deal with you? To me, it just comes off like you're mad about money. And it's not to say that you don't deserve it, because I think anybody that's paid attention to the Warriors dynasty for the last decade understands you're a very important part of that process. But you also have to understand that being a part of that process means that you have to do what it takes for that franchise to keep that process in motion. And I think that's where Draymond is slipping up. You're playing with these guys that, quite honestly, you would not have beaten Boston without them. You would not have beaten Boston without Jordan Poole. You would not have beaten Boston without, I'm going to keep saying it, Maple Jordan. you wouldn't have won the ring without these two guys, and these are young guns. You're 32 years old, bro. You have to understand that there's going to be a changing of the guard at some point. And I think that the biggest issue with Draymond is that he still feels like he's valuable, which I do agree he is, but he also thinks that his value is at a point where he's not ready to allow these younger guys to come in and take over when necessary.
Yeah, and I think just going off that, I think he's in a position. I think, like you said, I mean, he's deserving of a new contract. Now, is he a max player? Hell no. I don't think so.
Not in Golden State.
No, and
He
you
might
know,
be he
like,
might be a max player on a team that isn't going anywhere.
yeah.
And that's no knock on him. I'm just saying those are the teams that are going to be willing to pay him.
Yeah, and I mean his argument, you know, he could make the argument. There's a lot of players that haven't accomplished what he's accomplished that have gotten max extensions and that kind of thing. But obviously those guys aren't playing necessarily on championship
Have
teams,
they had the blessings of victory that you have?
right? And I think now is he necessarily wrong for wanting to get paid? No,
Right.
I think his value to their organization and what they do, I mean, it's immense. I mean, he's the reason that Steph and Clay get off the way they do. I mean, he's the one that kind of sets the table, sets the illegal picks, that kind of thing.
Very. Yep.
I'm sure a lot of teams would agree with me on that. Like, I mean,
At
if
least
you if you were to search illegal
at least
screens, I'm pretty
29 of
sure.
them. At least
Yeah.
29 of them.
Oh yeah, like every game that there's a reason Steph and Clay get open, and but I'm sure they'd be like, well, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, I guess. So,
Bam.
um, but anyway, like with that, I mean, I think it's one of those situations where he's in a situation where it's like this is his last chance to hit on a payday, and if you think about it, everybody kind of has been paid but him. I
Right.
mean, if you look at it, I mean, Steph just got a big deal. Clay got a big deal. I guess what, before he was injured or after he came back or something like that.
Mm.
And now you look at Poole and Wiggins getting it. Now, to go completely doom and gloom, they could be looking at this and go, okay, it's time to move off him because he's going to be too expensive. Which I'm cool with that. I mean, that's happened with every championship level team. They've lost somebody that they could have retained. They didn't, eventually. I mean, hey, the Lakers traded Shaq. Um, the Bulls disbanded, like those things happen. But
Steph, random thing I just looked up. Steph is actually the oldest of the three.
yeah, so what he's 34, right?
Steph is 34. Clay and Draymond are both 32
Yeah. And you would think that Draymond was the oldest of the group.
because he looks like a grandfather.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the only one that's got some gray, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so but no, I think
Donkey.
yeah.
Sorry. Sorry.
But no, I just think I think this is important to note. Like Draymond's impact is also like can be judged in two different ways. Like for all the stuff he's done as far as being a facilitator, he's been a key component of the culture that they've built. He's elite, he's the heart and soul of that team, for better or for worse. I mean, if he doesn't get suspended, they may not lose that series against Cleveland where they were up 3-1 and lost.
Mm-hmm.
If he doesn't get suspended, that series is probably over in 5 or 6.
Bro, I gotta hit it again. You ready for this?
Yeah, what's up?
So we're going in order. So I told you Steph is the oldest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Draymond is the youngest.
Mm-hmm.
Steph is 34. Clay's birthday is in February of 1990.
Mm-hmm.
Draymond's is in March.
Mm-hmm.
Draymond is actually a month younger than Clay. Draymond is the youngest of that core three.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, you don't really think of age in that way with them because it's like
Yeah,
they've all kind of grown together.
right.
But just, going back, I mean, his impact as far as, he's a big reason that they've won the titles they've won. He's been a big reason
Definitely.
that they didn't, complete that close to perfect season as far as the 73-9 and blowing the 3-1 lead. And like his antics, as much as they helped the team, they've also proven that they've hurt the team. I
Right.
mean, you could they had Kevin Durant. One of the main things that everybody talks about is when him and KD got into it, and the first thing he says is, we don't need you, which we
Yeah.
know is
I could
complete
go.
BS.
You already know I could go for days on that one. And
Yeah, like
that to me that to me is kind of annoying. And I don't even want to spend a ton of time on that one just because I know that we have a lot of other stuff that we want to talk about. But when it comes to Draymond in that situation, was Draymond wrong for what he said? This is one time when I'm actually gonna come out and say no. I I don't think he was wrong for what he said. Because for the simple fact, they literally had reached the mountaintop before KD got there. So because of that, I think him saying we don't need you, he's saying it with backing. He's literally saying, yo, we've done this without you. I think that the one thing that set that off, well, I won't even say one. I think it was a combination of two things. One, it happened during a televised game on camera where the world was able to see it, and that doubles down into my second point. KD is driven by ego. I think the reason KD wanted to leave is because one, he did want to prove that he could do it on his own, but he also didn't like the fact that that exchange between the two of them happened where the world could see it. I guarantee I'm not going to go as far as Charles Barkley because I don't have that kind of lung power. But I guarantee that if that same exchange had happened in practice and there were no cameras there, Durant probably wouldn't have left. I think it was a matter of trying to save face, and it's almost like that having the last word kind of thing. So with the whole Draymond and Durant thing, I don't even fully blame Draymond. And we've talked about this before. I'm not gonna fully blame Draymond for that because Kevin Durant knew the kind of situation he was coming into when he signed on that paper. You knew you were gonna come in dealing with a guy like Draymond. So honestly, I think that in today's era, if you're a basketball player, a professional basketball player, whatever, everybody wants a guy like Draymond on their team. They want a guy that's going to be that kind of dog, that's going to talk that trash, that's going to do all of this. And Kevin Durant went there because that was the kind of team that put his face in the dirt, but he didn't realize what it was going to take to last with that kind of team. So as much as they can point the finger at Draymond, I think it can be pointed just as much as Kevin Durant, but that's a whole other situation. That's entirely different situation. Draymond, ah, people knew what they were dealing with Draymond all along. It's just finally coming out to the surface now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and with that whole thing, like I said, I just think like in the conversation we had, personally about that, like I just think like for KD, if that was a factor, I could see why it would be just because you have basically the mouthpiece of that organization saying like, he's like their heart and soul. He's the fiery guy. He's the vocal like leader of that team. And then you have that guy basically saying we don't need you, which personnel wise was BS. Because if you remember that series, they go up 3-1, but I mean the problems have always been the same. Clay off the dribble is not as effective. Um, his straight line drives are pretty trash. But like even with Steph, he was kind of hobbled that year. Couldn't even get past Kevin Love off the bounce. So like the fit there was great. I thought they needed him in terms of having a guy they can put in the mid post, put in the high post, get him the ball, and he could be basically the fulcrum of your offense. You hand him the ball, he's your safety valve because when Steph and them can't get loose, when guys crowd them and run them off the line, you got a guy that's 6'11, 7 feet, 7'5 wingspan, whatever it is. You can throw him the ball and he can create his own shot, whether it's shooting over guys, whether it's breaking them down off the dribble, he shoots the three. We know what Kevin Durant can do. So I think it was, like we said before, or like we talked about, like I said, off air, they could have gotten any because KD basically replaced Harrison Barnes in that particular lineup, and they could have got any knockdown 3-point shooter to fill that role. But in typical Warrior fashion, they're like, why use this regular hammer? Let's just go with the sledgehammer, and they did. There was mutual interest there, and they went and got KD. Now, this ain't about KD; it's more about Draymond and the Warriors now. But
Right.
I mean, they got 2 titles out of it, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's not meant to last. And I mean, he was in a situation where he walked into a culture with guys that were drafted there, that developed together, that became a championship team organically. And it's hard to walk into a different culture and try to fit in and try to assimilate yourself to that. Like it's like to a different degree. It's like LeBron coming to the Lakers. Everybody like has this like idea that Kobe and LeBron were rivals, and it's like no, they weren't rivals. It's just y'all. Some fans just wanted to pit LeBron against somebody. They never played each other in the finals. They never did
Yeah.
that. Obviously, Kobe is the Laker, right?
Like
So
LeBron,
it's
LeBron even came out. LeBron even came out recently and said, like, as soon as he put pen to paper on his contract, he said one of the first people he heard from was Kobe.
yeah,
And he said that Kobe told him, like, hey, you know what this means, right? You're family now. Like this, they're like, this is forever. You're family now. Like it no, it everybody, the rivalry was never between them. The rivalry is fan based. It's the
yeah. It's
same,
like
it's
it's
it's the same
fan
thing as
tribalism.
yeah, it's the same thing as Michael Jordan versus anybody. Like a whole nother episode, bro. Like anybody that thinks that Michael Jordan is untouchable, y'all send us an email and apply to be a guest host because that stop it. Like every single NBA player in the history of the freaking company has fallacies.
Yeah.
Let's not act like anybody's untouchable. That it is what it is.
Yeah. And I mean, just, like looking at it, you got to ask, like, the question is now, like, what does it mean for the Warriors? Obviously, uh, they've invested in Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins, 2 key pieces to what they do. The team's not getting any younger in terms of their core. So, like I said, all those dudes are in their 30s, like Steph 34. It's like his game is going to age great. Clay's game is going to age great. Draymond is, if they're able to retain him, his game is going to age pretty well because I mean he's not out here dunking on anybody that often. So I
Yeah,
think
Draymond's is the only one to me that's conditional. And we kind of talked about this before. When I say Draymond's is the only one that's conditional, what I mean by that is, yeah, I mean, he's tenacious. He's a heck of a rebounder. He has, you know, amazing court vision, but
in his defense,
and his defense. But at the same time, offensively, what he does, it doesn't matter if there's not shooters around him.
right?
So far, his entire career, we've seen how he thrives when he has guys around him that he can kick the ball out to. It's like, for example, how does Draymond thrive if we pluck him out of Golden State right now and plug him into Charlotte?
Yeah,
We're not hearing from Draymond anymore. If we take him out of Golden State and we plug him right now into Houston,
yeah,
we're not hearing from him anymore. He is an amazing, incredible talent, and I won't take that away from him, regardless of the attitude on, off the floor, whatever. But his is the only one, and this is what I said the other day. His talent is the only one that is based off what's around him.
yeah.
And that's gonna be his downfall. Right now, he's going to let his mentality and he's going to let his attitude play into his downfall because he doesn't understand if he goes anywhere else, it's not going to be the same.
Yeah. And it just makes you wonder. It's like, does Golden State, who they've inherited luxury tax hell because they've decided to pay all these guys and they've been over the cap for years. But with Draymond, you have to wonder, okay, does he take less to stay? Does he take, fewer years and more money, like a short-term deal to stay? Um, does he get traded? This isn't going to be a situation where it's like Rudy Gobert. You're not going to get a Gobert, you're not going to get some crazy haul for Draymond Green. You might get like a player, some picks. That's it. It's not going to be anything crazy. I think his skill set is tailor made for what the Warriors do because he's the guy, he's the straw that stirs the drink. Defensively, he allows Steph to be Steph and Clay to be Clay. That's his importance to the team. Without his defense and his leadership and that fire and all that, like he's like, everybody looks at Steph and Steph is selfless and he's an unassuming type of superstar. Clay is quiet about his business. He's an all-star player. Draymond's that one guy on the team that, like, Rick Carlisle used to say this when he coached the Mavericks. He's like, I ain't got nothing against milk drinkers, but you need a few beer drinkers on your roster, right? And Draymond Green is like that beer drinker for the roster. He's the hellraiser on the team. You kind of need that with to balance out some of the more low key personalities on the team. And that can be for better or for worse. Look at the core of that team. Steph, quiet guy. Clay, quiet dude. Andrew Wiggins, quiet, just goes about his business. Jordan Poole's a young dude. He's got a little bit of swag, a little bit of attitude. But like for the most part, the team is just quiet and goes about their business. You kind of need a guy that's vocal, and sometimes that's to their detriment. But now you look at it, I think they've set themselves up in their future pretty well by getting those young guys, extended. James Wiseman is back and healthy. They still got Kevon Looney. They still got a lot of these guys. They still got Iggy coming back for another year, saying it's his last, and I believe him. But like they've kept it open. I don't think this is something that should bleed into the season unless, Draymond just becomes more disgruntled and causes more trouble. But, as we saw in their last preseason game, it looks like him and Jordan Poole have squared it away, which is good. It's good that that's not lingering to where it's become a distraction. I think Draymond taking taking some time away from the team, kind of letting this whole situation die down some. Whoever leaked the TMZ video, obviously, whatever your job was within the organization wasn't paying enough. Hey, get your money, bro. But um, it
I
is
have
what it is, man.
I have some funny theories on that too. The first thing I want to ask, and I want to get your opinion on it real quick.
Okay.
When it comes to what went down with that whole situation, we saw the video. Um, Draymond Green in that situation, the way he handled it, right or wrong, regardless of what he did after the fact, as far as his apology, this or that, from what we saw in the video, how do you assess that situation?
No, I mean it's a disgusting situation. Don't get me wrong. Like, like obviously we don't have the context. We don't know if there was something said. We don't know who. We don't know who. Like, we don't know how it started. Pretty much, all we have is Jordan Poole standing there. Kind of looks like he might be saying something. He's got that look on his face, like maybe he's saying something, but he's not like, he's not backing down, whatever.
Right.
Draymond's jawing, and then Draymond walks over and he escalates it. He's the
Right.
aggressor in the situation. He just walks up to dude, gets in his face. Basically, it almost looks like it was like he was daring him to do something. And Jordan Poole defended himself by pushing him away.
Mm.
And then Draymond decks him. And so,
And see,
like,
that's what annoys me, because so many of the outlets in the media are basically talking. They're trying to present it as if Jordan Poole did something first, and that could be taken one of two ways. They could be going from the aspect of Jordan Poole was talking trash, from like a scrimmage type thing or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
Now, that's possible. The second option is some outlets are trying to say that, oh, Jordan Poole, once Draymond came in, Jordan Poole shoved him and this, that, whatever. Both of those things to me are incredibly one-sided.
yeah,
From the first side of it, oh, Jordan Poole was probably saying this or that, whatever. We're talking about the one active player in the league that has the most opinions
yeah,
about everybody else. Draymond is literally that one guy that has the most toxic podcast of active NBA players right now. All he does is take time to talk trash about this, about that, about referees, about officiating, about whatever's happened. That's all he does. That's literally how he makes a living. He sits around and talks trash. So, one, if the media is going to sit around and say that, oh, Draymond, got mad because somebody was talking trash to him, let's not get into the look. And I won't say the word, but yeah, my dudes from Little Brother said, "Ain't that the pot calling the kettle the N word?" Um,
mm,
so, and then on the other side of it, we're gonna say, "Oh, he pushed Draymond." Nah, go watch that video closely. All Jordan Poole was doing was running his mouth, just like his teammate is accustomed to doing. And Draymond made the choice to come back across the court to him. When he came back across the court, he walks up and puts his chest directly into Jordan Poole's chest. Draymond made the first physical contact.
right.
And Jordan Poole, being the smaller guy, I respect that. I'm a little guy. Anytime I was on the court, look, we literally just had this conversation earlier, Shane. Playing ball in high school and in college, I was always that small guy on the court. You have to stand your ground. Draymond walks up to him and throws his chest into Jordan Poole's chest.
Yeah, like what do you expect?
Jordan Poole, as soon as he takes that contact, he comes up and shoves him away. Who's not gonna do that? And then all of a sudden, Draymond feels the need to come out and throw this haymaker. My God, he feels the need to come out and throw this haymaker.
Slobber knocker.
Totally good. You're right.
My God.
Right. Totally unnecessary. But just like I told you the other day, Shane, the reason he did it is because Draymond realized in that moment he was finally playing with a teammate that wasn't going to stand for his bullying tactics. That's what that was. And another thing, just like this contract dispute, that was Draymond realizing that there's a changing of the guard.
Yeah.
There are other guys on the team that are going to be just as big a dog as him. And now he feels threatened. And he feels like, oh, I need to stand up. I need to show these guys I'm still what matters around here. And that's why he threw the punch. But let me tell you one thing that really bothered me. Jordan Poole just got paid. All good. But if you go back and watch that video, if I'm Jordan Poole, one thing that is going to concern me moving forward, Draymond comes across the court and gets in my face. Draymond is the veteran. I'm still the young gun, right? Draymond comes across the court and gets in my face. He puts his chest in mine. I shove him. He decks me, knocks me out, punches me to the floor. Was there anything interesting that you noticed about that video when that happened, Shane?
I thought it was kind of crazy that the thing I noticed was Steph was in that video. But Steph wasn't about to deal with that. Steph had all his focus on what was going on the court, not on the outside. He didn't go over there.
Yes.
He didn't get involved.
So here's my thing with that. Steph was in the video. There's plenty of other team personnel that's in the video.
Right.
When he gets decked, in your opinion, just to make sure we didn't see this differently, in your opinion, when this went down, was there anybody in the video that you saw that immediately jumped to Jordan Poole's aid?
Not really. I think it felt like there was somebody like close by that kind of jumped on it, but it was like he had all the time to like deck the dude and go in to try and pin him.
Yes.
And then
they didn't jump into his aid until it looked like Draymond was trying to come back in again.
Yeah.
That to me is kind of troublesome.
Yeah.
That to me is a very troublesome element of this situation.
I mean, like, and that it's just odd because it's like, you know, a lot of people are, you know, and we'll move on shortly, but
yeah,
like yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, you know, I've been at practices where some things have been said between teammates. There's been some pushing, there's been some shoving, there's been some threatening. I've seen fights. Now, granted, this was football, much more aggressive game, but I mean, that kind of stuff happens. I mean, and one common thing on most of these teams when it's happening is, you know, teams are, you know, grinding and they're trying to get better and lock in and practice and it's intense and that kind of thing. Usually you might have a dust up between teammates, and I've seen it. A hilarious example, I won't name names, but basically it's a football practice. You got a top receiver on the team. You got like a defensive guy. There's some pushing, there's some shoving. They start fighting straight up. Do any coaches get involved? No. These players go ahead, they scrap. Dude gets the better of him, and then that's it. They go on to the next play. It was one of the weirdest things because nobody broke it up. It's like they went ahead, they scrapped real quick, and then it was over. Now it wasn't one of those things that lingered either. It wasn't like, oh, they went back at each other after the fact or whatever. You we've been on teams where we've played with people we don't see eye to eye with. We played pickup with people that we don't see eye to eye with, that kind of thing. But I mean, everybody handles stuff different. I just think Draymond deciding to deck him, nobody really came over. That was a little weird. Um, I don't know. I think the response, they didn't necessarily suspend him. It didn't look good. So it'll be something to watch to see if anything like that is to come out again. But like I said, I mean, he went ahead and decked Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole just got paid. Andrew Wiggins got paid. So we'll see how that situation goes. I think it's something to monitor. But that being said, our first opportunity to really monitor it is when the season tips off. Right now, we're recording this Sunday morning. It's 2:51 in the morning.
I don't want to talk
and
about
we're
it.
recording this podcast.
I'm sleepy as hell, but I love y'all.
Yeah, I'm exhausted too. I just had to cover a football game, and it was a homecoming game here in town, so I'm exhausted. I just covered the game Friday night as well, so I'm running on low sleep, but we got to get it in.
I got my buddy back. We coming for y'all. I hope y'all see this dedication.
Yeah, it feels good. It's been a long time, man, and shout out to my boy for holding it down in my absence. I've been dealing with some illnesses, dealing with some unfortunate stuff physically, but now I'm feeling better. I'm still trying to get some stuff out of my system, but feels good to be back. So right in time for basketball season. Tuesday season tips off, 2022-2023 season. We start out on Tuesday. We got two games on TNT. We got the Philly 76ers against the Boston Celtics in the opener. And then the nightcap is James's Los Angeles Lakers against these Warriors that we've been talking about for the last few minutes. So with this, James, we just gonna touch on this real quick, ask some questions, whatever. But Sixers and Celtics, man. Obviously, I know you feel some type of way about Boston, but going into the season, I mean, you're talking the Sixers. They're trying to take that next step. They added PJ Tucker in the offseason. Um, Tyrese Maxey another year under his belt. Joel Embiid, an MVP candidate last year, came close to winning the award. Many argue he should have won the award, but that's neither here nor there. And then on Boston's side, probably had the best offseason of any contending team. Even though they won't have Danilo Gallinari, but they did add Blake Griffin. And then they obviously got Malcolm Brogdon for their point guard spot. So, just what are your thoughts on that matchup to start the year? Two Titans in the Eastern Conference.
Now, not even to show any sort of unfair bias on my part, and this has nothing to do with how I feel about Boston.
Go ahead.
I think I think that Philly is about to run away with this one on opening night. And the reason I say that it's for a number of reasons. One, if we look at everything that's going on in Boston right now, I still feel like Boston just doesn't have everything all together just yet. We look at the fact that, they didn't ever get to throw Gallinari into the lineup. We're dealing with a Malcolm Brogdon who, he just came in, but it's still something that is very early. And I mean, it's not very often that we see a player like that come in and immediately show out from the get-go. So I think that's another reason that Boston is going to take a little bit of time. We're looking at Robert Williams, who's already out recovering from his knee surgery. That's another big part of their roster that's missing.
Yeah.
And of course, they're going to have to deal with the fact of missing Ime Udoka. I mean, that's huge. You lose a head coach that got you to the finals, that got you 2 wins away from a title, and
in his first year.
In his first year, that's going to be something that's going to have an impact. But everything on Boston's side, I definitely want to shed some light on Philly. Just like you said, Joel Embiid is going to be in the running for MVP this year. And if you look at that roster, he's not going to be the only person that's going to be in the running for awards. Gotta shine some light on Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey, to me, is going to be in the running in two different ways. He could possibly win most improved this year, and he could possibly win defensive player of the year with the way that he's been showing what he's capable of. I think I think he could win either one. I'm not going to go as far as to say both,
Yeah.
but I definitely think he could take either defensive player of the year or most improved. Then you look at the fact that they're saying that James Harden came in, you know, definitely under his typical weight. He's much more
He
in
lost
playing
100
shape.
pounds.
Right. It's
Let him tell it.
Philly is here. Well, I mean, it just means he took the weight vest off. You know, those weight vests. I used to have one. The one I had was 40 pounds. So he might have lost
He
60.
took
He might
off
have lost
the
60.
5 shirts.
Yeah. And then he shaved about 3 inches off his beard. That was about 10 pounds. So, but no, I think that Philly is also putting themselves in a position where they can really make something happen. And I'm not a betting guy, but I think opening night early on, while these teams are still trying to get into a groove and everything, I think Philly takes the win on Tuesday.
Yeah. I think, I think with Philly, obviously, we talk about Maxi, we talk about Embiid. Like, I mean, they still got Tobias Harris. Like, they still got like a deep, talented roster. I think their success ultimately just comes down to which James Harden are we getting. Is he gonna be the James Harden we saw when he first got to Brooklyn, where he's still scoring, maybe not at 30 something a game, but he's averaging 22 and 12. Like he's out there, directing traffic. He's the point guard, but he's also still lethal as a scoring guy. We heard a lot of stuff pretty much all off season. Is James Harden done? Is he blah blah blah? Like the dude was dealing with injuries, and one of those was the main one was a hamstring. He's been dealing with hamstrings for a couple years now. Hamstrings aren't like they're tricky injuries because they nag. Like when
Especially when he's
you
fat.
may think they're done, and then
He's
they
fat.
come back. There's a tweak. Yeah, he was fat too. Yeah,
Sorry,
fat too.
he's fat. Sorry.
Yeah, but he when healthy, and he hasn't been in great shape in quite some time, but he looks to be in good shape. He looks like he's worked hard this offseason. He feels like he'll be right back into the MVP conversation. I think if he is playing at an MVP level, on the level we've seen him at in the past, I think that makes Philly a much more dangerous team. He was a shell of himself when he got to Philly. Didn't shoot the ball particularly well. And I think at his peak, he shoots the ball really well. He gets to the foul line a lot, and he can make plays for others. So I think ultimately their success this year is going to is going to be hinged upon health. Is Joel Embiid going to be able to be available as much as he needs to be? Is James Harden going to be back to his MVP self? I think that's key. But then, shifting gears, looking at the Lakers and the Warriors that first night, that one that's going to be a lot of question marks as well because you got the Lakers coming in. They still got Russ on the roster. They Kendrick Nunn is back after missing all of last year pretty much. They just added Patrick Beverly. Lonnie Walker is there. Juan Toscano Anderson is there. They still got Austin Reeves. All these role players around Anthony Davis and LeBron, who doesn't look like he's slowing down, and he's about to be in year 20. And then Golden State, we talked about, where they're at as the reigning champions and all the stuff they got going on. So, James, when you look at it, your squad versus the Warriors, 10 p.m. Tuesday. What's your thoughts going into that one?
Uh so I'm to me, this feels like very much a wait and see type of game. Um, my so I'm gonna start on Golden State side. We know everything that's been going on with the Warriors. Of course, they're coming off a title. It's going to be ring night. It's going to be banner night for them. So of course, that can, as crazy as it sounds, that can work in two different ways. Um, Getting that ring, watching that banner get raised, on one hand, it can be a situation where it's like, oh man, like we're trying to do this again and this, that, whatever. On the flip side, there's also that one like, yeah, man, we did this, and you get comfortable on opening night. Now, do I think Golden State is going to do that? Not necessarily.
They've been here
On,
before.
Right, right. They've done this before. On the other side, I'm more concerned, and I mean, as a Laker fan, I'm more concerned with my squad because two things tore us apart last season. Number one was injury, and number two was confusion. There was never an understanding of whose role was whose. There was never a set routine of what player, what guy was going to do any one thing. And that is what I think tore us apart even more so than injury. Even when everybody was healthy, we still didn't know what was going on. So, with that being said, if I had to pick a winner for Tuesday night, I'm ashamed to say it, but I'm really not. I'm betting against my squad, and I think Golden State is going to take the opening night game. I think Golden State takes it because they're clearly going to be more focused. They've been on a championship path for the last couple of years. They had those down years where, Steph and Clay were hurt, KD left and all of that. But I think they've been more on the upward trajectory than and it's funny to say this considering that while they were down, my team actually won a ring. Like, but it's just been, at least with Golden State, there's been more of a sense of getting back to normalcy, whereas with the Lakers, it's been more of what can we do to try to stay on par with everybody else. It's not a matter of what can we do to be who we are. It's what can we do to keep in line with everybody else. And that's the one thing that tends to bring down a lot of teams in the league. And I think that the Lakers are going to be the latest casualty of that.
Yeah, and I think it's the classic case of, you don't have a whole lot of question marks with Golden State's roster. Like, like what they're about. Like, the team is set. With the Lakers, there's so much swirling around it. It's like there's so many like what if, like, there's so many question marks. Is Anthony Davis going to be healthy? If so, how many games are he going to be available? LeBron is in year 20. At what point does father time catch up with him? Is it going to be this year? Through preseason, he looks great. Um, and is Russ going to be on the team? Going deeper into the year, is he going to be on the roster? Or are they going to find a way to buy him out? Or are they going to trade him? Like, what's about to happen? Who's going to be the starting point guard? Is it going to be Patrick Beverly? Is it Kendrick Nunn? Is it Russ? There's so many different things. Like, there's so many question marks with the roster. You just don't know. And I think those question marks ultimately put them kind of behind the eight ball. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, it wasn't a team that made the playoffs last year. It was a team that is a lot of ill-fitting parts. There was a lot of guys that didn't play well. Didn't shoot the ball well, certainly, and guys missed games. LeBron missed games. AD missed games. And when those two are they're the guys on your team, when those guys aren't available, it's like, okay, who's going to step up in that absence? And
And and
the
not
Lakers just don't have they didn't have a fit to kind of, you know, stay afloat when those things happen. And I mean, most teams wouldn't be able to recover from that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and as off as everything was last year between injuries and fit and time and all of that, we also need to keep in mind for the listeners out there, if you're not aware, then I'm gonna need y'all to get familiar. Also going into a season with a new coach.
Yep. Darvin Ham.
Also bringing in Darvin Ham, who for what it's worth, and I hate saying this because I am still bitter from 2004. Y'all do your research if you don't know what I'm talking about. I do think that Darvin Ham is going to be a successful head coach in the NBA. Um, I think this
Hell of a
opportunity,
first job, right?
I know, right? I think this opportunity for him is going to be tremendous. I think this is going to be a big step for him. Like success or failure, regardless. I think this is going to be a heck of a first step for him.
What do you
So
think? What do you think is going to be? What do you think is the best case scenario for him in year one?
very slim margin avoiding the play in, like hitting the 6th seed.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't see, like, the biggest thing with the Lakers over the last couple of years has been health. It's been health and fit, regardless of who the coach is. So I don't see this team. This team is absolutely not winning the division. I mean, we play in a division with Golden State and Phoenix. We're not winning the
And the
division.
Clippers.
And the clip, I'm not going there yet. Screw them. I'm not. I'll give Golden State and Phoenix their credit. You know why? Because we've seen it. No, I'm not. I'm not anointing the Clippers anything. I
And the
get what I.
Sacramento. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Look,
But
even Shaq sold off the Queens. Look, but I, my whole thing is Darvin Ham is coming into a position where there's so much transition already taking place. He's gonna be given some rope. So I think this is the prime position for him coming in as a debuting head coach, because he's going to be given room to fail, even though it is the Los Angeles Lakers and typically coaches there don't get that kind of leeway. I think that he will, just because of everything that's going on there with injuries and egos and contracts. I think he's going to be given a little bit more of a chance.
I'm
He's,
worried about that.
huh?
I'm worried about that because I feel like they've had situations recently. I
Mm,
mean, obviously it's all water under the bridge now, but I mean, think about it. Luke Walton, right? Luke
yeah,
Walton had that team going on kind of an upward trajectory. They were in a rebuild. They had a young roster. They just drafted Lonzo Ball. Like they had a roster that was improving,
right,
and they were on their own kind of, they were on their own kind of development path where, they weren't like good, but they were getting better. They were getting
right,
better, and while Luke was there, and Luke as a
right,
former Laker, you're like, okay, like he's the guy that's going to do this. And then they, Magic gets involved and they bail on him, and he ends up
right.
going to the
One.
Kings, and now he doesn't even have a job with anybody right now. I think he's a consultant or an assistant somewhere else, but like you go from him to you end up getting Frank Vogel, and yeah, he delivers the title for you, but and he's a veteran coach, and it seemed like y'all weren't that high on him to begin with because you weren't ready to give him a long-term kind of deal, and then you kick him to the curb, and he's an experienced coach. He won you a
And I
title.
wonder, yeah, I still wonder to this day if there was something going on behind the scenes that we didn't know.
Yeah, and
Because
yeah,
there's, to me, that's the only explanation that you could give if you boot a coach within a year of bringing you a title.
yeah, there had to be some
There
kind of,
had to be
yeah.
something else going on there.
Yeah, and I worry about Darvin Ham because, like I said, if Luke Walton couldn't get leeway there, and Luke Walton got booted, and he was improving the roster, then come on. And then Frank Vogel wins a title and he's out the door.
And
So
again,
then
it's
now you're
still
looking at like it's LA, it's expectations. You look up and you
Mhm.
see them banners and you're expected to win.
Yeah,
And
to me it's still a matter. Like I said, it's that question mark of is there something going on other than simply the wins and losses?
yeah,
So
and
I
it
mean,
makes me wonder
it's
about the front office.
yeah, I totally agree.
Like
Totally agree.
I think worst case scenario is he can't manage all the different egos and personalities on the roster and he's in over his head and the team underachieves like worse than they're already expected to not achieve. I
Oh
think that's
Lord,
the worst case scenario.
so they're gonna win less than 10 games? My God.
I don't know if they're gonna win less than 10, but I
I'm already upset at the fact that Rasheed Wallace pulled out because I think that would have been a huge, huge move for this
it
team.
would have been interesting. I mean,
I
Rasheed,
think
yeah, he would have added something.
you have to have guys on your roster, especially like on the coaching staff. It helps even more. Those guys that aren't going to back down. It's like it'd be one thing if you see Draymond go and get in a player's face, like that's his teammate. Draymond is sitting here in a polo and goes and gets in Austin Reeves' face, not nearly to the same extent because then I'd still be like, fire him because that's annoying. But if he's challenging players like that wearing a polo, there's a different level of respect there.
Yeah,
Like I told you, look, and we even talked about this before. Like when I first heard that Rasheed Wallace was under consideration to be on Coach Ham's staff, I was excited. I
yeah,
was like, dude, don't tell me this is really happening. And I said, what did I say? We need that kind of dog in LA.
yeah.
We need that kind of aggression because that has not been in Los Angeles, honestly, since Ron Artest left.
Yeah, and I mean the closest thing now. I mean, you went out and got Pat Bev. I
Pat
mean, he's
Bev.
now granted. I mean, I think he'll help them in terms of that dog on the court. I think he helps set a tone from a leadership standpoint. But
Definitely.
there's other games we got to get to.
Right.
I think we'll breeze through this because this will be the second, third, and fourth day of
Yeah.
the season.
Yeah.
So how we're gonna do this is I'm gonna just go through and we'll just make our picks and talk briefly about these. So like Wednesday,
Okay.
ESPN, it'll be their debut for the season.
Opening
They'll be
night.
starting out. We got the new look New York Knicks and the Memphis Grizzlies, who for the most part were pretty quiet. They were one of the most quiet teams this
They didn't
offseason.
they didn't have to move. I'm gonna tell you
Yeah.
right now, I'm putting my money on Ja and company on that one, man. John and about is that is that Memphis or New York? Where are they playing?
I think it's in Memphis, I believe.
They're about to run them out the building. Man, it's the Ja and company, the Memphis is about to work that one. I
Sometimes the best, I think sometimes, and this is something that we've seen too. Sometimes the best off-season move you can make is not make any.
it's a not yeah. Ja, they're
They've got a young team. Obviously, the only question I have with the team is Jaren Jackson Jr. That's the only guy I'm worried about. He's had some issues with his knees, that kind of thing.
and the thing, and see the reason I'm not gonna sweat that too much is because what team in the league doesn't have issues with health? I mean, they for what 20 25 games last year, they were missing Ja Morant and they won like 90% of those games.
Yeah, and
So
that, yeah, like with that, like you said, I think the key there is where you see like the strength of that team come out. This
mhm,
is why I think the Jaren Jackson, him possibly missing some time, to start the year, um, is basically they rely on defense, and they were one of the top defensive teams in the league last year, mainly because of Jaren Jackson Jr. and that system that they have in place with Taylor Jenkins and everybody there. Like,
mhm.
I think Ja missing those games. I don't think it was as it was. I don't think it was as impactful that he missed those games because they still, like you said, they still won without him.
Yeah,
I think the key
I
there
think they only
is,
lost like 3, 4 games without
yeah,
him.
and the reason they did that is because the defense is good. I think
And we
Ja
all
for all his,
and we also got to give a nod to coaching. Shout out to Taylor
yeah,
Jenkins.
yeah, and I mean, he's like my age, maybe like a year older.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean
Yeah.
he did a hell of a job there, and
You on Missoula's level now.
yeah, yeah. So but
Go ahead and
yeah,
apply.
like
Go ahead and apply for a coaching job, bro.
I know,
Put
right?
me on your staff.
Any GMs listening to this, it's
I don't know about any. I'm not working in Boston. I'm
it,
not working with the Clippers. Other than that, yeah, we
shoot,
can talk.
I'll work with whoever willing to cut the check. I mean, if I don't care where it's at. I mean, if you gonna pay me something, I will wear anything but a Houston Rockets or San Antonio Spurs polo.
Oh, see, you cutting yourself short already.
Be
See,
like, yeah,
like,
be like, yeah, I'll coach anywhere, just not
just
for
not
them.
anywhere else in Texas.
Yeah. So that's the JWJ podcast, by the way. We can be heard.
Listen,
Real quick plug. We are on more
ooh,
outlets now. Thanks to Mr. Washington across the way.
all
We are
love,
on
all love.
iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Overcast. We are now on our newest platform is iHeartRadio,
Yeah,
and
man.
we are on Amazon Music. And as you guys already know, we are on YouTube. So,
Yes,
um,
sir.
so we appreciate you guys listening to us, and you have other ways that you can hear us now. So follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Now, my opinion on this game:
Mhm.
the Grizzlies are the Grizzlies. I think they'll definitely win this game, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I'm intrigued to see how New York looks because obviously they
right,
got Jalen Brunson, former Mav.
right.
He's their point guard of the future. They invested in him 4 years, $104 million.
Mhm.
Um, they have their three best players are lefties. That's a random fun fact. I think that's interesting. Um, Jalen Brunson, how he runs that show is going to be important. I think he's going to do a good job. He's always been solid. Um, RJ Barrett, is he gonna take a leap? Is he about to become that consistent 20 a game scorer that does some things? Julius Randle, I think he's been overexposed this time, masquerading as a number one option when really I think he's more in a complementary role. Where's he gonna
Mhm.
fit in terms of his pecking order? Is he still kind of the number one there, or is it Brunson?
I I wouldn't be surprised if Julius Randle's best fit ends up being on the trading block.
Yeah, like for another team.
I think, yeah, I would not be surprised if by the deadline Julius Randle gets moved.
Yeah. And I'm just, I'm just intrigued by the Knicks. I think they've been close. They had the whole deal where they played Atlanta in the postseason, whatever, and then they regressed. Now
Yeah,
with Brunson, obviously the expectations are going to go up. They still got some guys on the team that are, ready to try and prove themselves. They re-signed Mitchell Robinson. Like they got a team that on paper can compete. The problem was, defensively, it was a solid team. Offensively, they were kind of blah. I mean, they didn't really have a ton of shooting. They weren't like this dynamic offensive team. They were more of a grinded out, 1990s style team.
right.
And I'm interested just to see how the addition of Jalen Brunson and what he brings to the table helps that roster. Now, going from Brunson's current team to his former team, we got my Dallas Mavericks going against the Phoenix Suns Wednesday night, 10 p.m. It's in Phoenix. It is a rematch of the Western Conference Finals that saw the Mavericks beat the Suns, who were up 2-0 in that series, beat the Suns in game seven, and they ain't been the same since. And so now, we're looking at Dallas, who made a surprise run to the Western Conference Final against Golden State. That was the semis that they beat Phoenix.
Yeah.
Um, and the question now for the Mavs and led by Luka Doncic is, are they? Is it for real? Last year we had a lot of stuff happen with some teams in the West. You didn't have Jamal Murray with Denver. No Kawhi for the Clippers, no Paul George for most of the year. The Lakers had taken a step back. Phoenix was a 64 win team, and Utah was kind of still considered one of the top teams in the West. Like there was a lot of things that happened and changed where you're like, okay, and then Dallas seemed to come out of nowhere. They beat Utah, and I think in what, five or six,
Six.
and then they go out and beat the Suns in Game 7, and obviously they failed to Golden State in
Can we
five.
can we be fair and say that Dallas beat Phoenix in 6? Because anybody that watched
they didn't show up for Game 7.
Anybody that watched Game 7 knows better.
Yeah,
and I'll even and I'm gonna use that to go into my prediction for this week. I think Dallas wins this game. But not even I'm not gonna tip my hat either way. I do think Dallas wins this game. My main reason for that is because I think Dallas is going to come in more prepared. Mm-hmm. I think that Phoenix is going to come into this game with a lot more on their shoulders.
They got a lot to deal with.
Dealing with the whole, Sarver situation, and then dealing with the question marks around getting DeAndre Ayton back in town.
Crowder won.
And the whole thing with Jay Crowder, suddenly not wanting to be there anymore. To me, honestly, that whole situation with Jay Crowder is sad. I understand that you want to be on the court as often as possible. You want to get your PT, whatever. But for the longest time, Jay, you haven't been a starter. And now that you're being sat to the back for a Cam Johnson, who, honestly, if I'm starting a team and I want to put a starting 5 together, I'm taking him over you. Let's just be real. I'm just being honest. Overall, he's a better player than you right now. You're the veteran that needs to take a back seat and show this guy. Well. Oh, we know Mikal. Oh, you notice I didn't even mention him because that's a given. Anybody that comes and says that they're going to come to Phoenix and thinks they should start over Mikal Bridges, I'm going to be like, okay, where else do you want to play? Yeah. This dude, I told you, he was my defensive player of the year last year. Yeah. I don't care what the numbers say. He was my defensive player. How how hard it's going to be for me to give props to somebody that's in the same division as the Lakers. Yeah. Like Mikal Bridges to me was the defensive player of the year last year. And I will say that until I am blue in the face and out of breath. Now, I think Dallas takes this game. I feel like they take it handily because I think that Phoenix is just going to come in out of sorts. Yeah. I just think they're not going to be ready.
Yeah. I just think there's, like you said, I mean, there's a lot going on there. I mean, Chris Paul's 37, but he's an old 37. And at any point
there's nothing wrong with being 37, ladies and gentlemen.
There's nothing wrong with being 37, but there's also, with him having the mileage he has.
Being 37 is more so acceptable / sexy when you're a podcast host, but proceed.
Right. But when you're a point guard that's been in the league forever, at any point, and this is another situation, like Chris Paul's at a situation now, it's like, look, last year was probably his best chance to win it. I don't think Phoenix is going to be the number 1 team in the West this year. I think there's definitely going to be some slippage there.
They absolutely will not be.
Yeah, and I'm not saying necessarily it was a fluke. I'm just saying that I think a lot of teams are going to be better.
No, and too many things change within their own organization.
Yeah. And that's going to be a cloud that hangs over the team until they're sold. Is just obviously with Chris Paul's ties to the Players Association, that's huge. And it's a distraction. It's an elephant in the room that they're having to deal with. And then it's not the only thing they're dealing with. DeAndre Ayton and Monty Williams didn't see eye to eye. DeAndre wanted out, wasn't expecting the Suns to re-sign him. Then, at the 11th hour, here they come. And so they kept him. And now, it's a situation where you got a guy who's not thrilled about being there. You got another guy wanting out who was a key role player. Um, and so you don't really know what to expect from them. They kind of came out of nowhere last year after making the finals. I don't think anybody expected them to be a 64 win team and be a number one seed in the West. I don't think anybody saw that. But now, I think the cat's out of the bag with that. There's going to be other teams that are going to be reloaded and looking to do something, and that's what I'm looking at with the Mavs. I mean, obviously you got Luka Doncic, and everybody knows what he can do. But they've retooled as well. I mean, they went out and they acquired JaVale McGee, who played on Phoenix last year, to be their starting center. They went out and acquired Christian Wood from Houston, who I think is going to be a major pickup for them. Um, and I'm saying this objectively. I'm not even saying this as a fan right now. Notice I said them and not us. And like there's a lot to be excited about with the Mavericks roster. Christian Wood, they're even planning right now to have him come off the bench right now. So you got Spencer Dinwiddie back, another year off an ACL. Tim Hardaway Jr. had a broken foot last year and didn't play in the playoffs. He missed a lot of time after the All-Star break. That's like getting another, free agent almost. And, that was, they made the trade for Christian Wood. They got JaVale McGee, and they'll be having, a lot of guys come back one more year and having Hardaway back. That's huge. So defensively, the mentality is still there. It's a sneaky deep roster. Still some questions there as far as who's going to be that guy that steps in after Jalen Brunson leaves. I don't think Brunson's departure is going to be one of those things that holds them back from being one of the better teams in the West. I think obviously you'll need another guy that can can lead the offense and initiate, but I think Spencer Dinwiddie can do that. They still got some other guys on the bench, Frank Ntilikina, as a guy that can hit threes and play some defense. Josh Green is looking good in preseason, so they got a lot of things on the roster that to be excited about. So I think Dallas is another team that is going to be up there, with the best teams in the West. So that's Wednesday's game. Thursday, we get our first look at the Milwaukee Bucks, and we'll get to see the Sixers again, and then we'll see Clippers in LA against the Lakers, which it's a home game for both teams. So with that one, I'm gonna just give picks because we've already seen the Sixers by this point, and we've already seen the Lakers by this point. So who wins those games?
Lakers open the week 0-2.
So you lose to the Clippers.
Lakers open the week 0-2. I love my squad, but I'm going to be realistic. Yeah. I think the Clippers are coming out with something to prove. The Lakers are going down 0-2 opening week.
That's going to be an interesting game. I think I want to see how the Clippers look. I mean, it seems like, last year was kind of a down year for them because they were kind of on the periphery. They didn't have Kawhi. PG missed a lot of games. So on and so forth.
And now plus they have the addition of John Wall, which I want to put it out there. And Shane, I'm going to put that out there on record right now. There's a little quick episode that I want to throw out about him too. We definitely got to make that happen. Yeah. But you already know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the Clippers already had one of the more talented rosters in the league. If they're healthy, they still stand to be very formidable if they're healthy and guys are playing.
Right.
John Wall looks rejuvenated. I think he'll help them.
John Wall looks damn good.
Yeah,
John Wall looks damn good.
Yeah, I think he's in a spot right now where, I mean, this is kind of a reclamation kind of project, but
yeah,
he's looking like he's up to that challenge. And if he's close to his all-star form, the Clippers are going to be dangerous. I mean, they already are as constituted, but when you add a guy like John Wall to the list,
I was just about to say, if you're the kind of team that can have a guy like John Wall as your third option,
yeah,
y'all better watch out.
He's your third best player.
Wow, y'all better watch out, man.
Yeah. And I think the Clippers probably be favored to win that game. I think Milwaukee beats Philly Giannis is Giannis. That team they've built, the team they built in Milwaukee is awesome.
I
They
think
continue to just get, they get better in little ways, but those little ways are important. And I
I
think
think
they're right back at the top of the East this year.
I think Milwaukee taking that win against Philly opening week is all going to come down to Chris Middleton.
Right.
Are we going to have a full strength Chris Middleton?
Right.
I think if we don't, I'm still giving the edge to Philly.
Yeah.
I mean, no, of course, I'm never gonna knock on Giannis because Giannis is arguably one of the greatest players in the world right now.
Yeah, he's arguably the
Um,
best in the world. Yeah.
yeah, but I still think that if you look at what Philly is possibly coming with, if you do not have a Chris Middleton that's ready to go, because we know Drew Holiday is going to be good.
Right.
If we do not have a Chris Middleton that's good to go, I still want to give a slight edge to Philly on that one.
Yeah.
I still think that Philly might come out 2-0 at the end of opening week.
Yeah. Deep, talented roster, man, both teams. And, the defensive identity is how I kind of identify Milwaukee. They're a high powered offense as well. They score a lot of points, but they also defend, and that's
Mhm.
Giannis all the way.
And
Um,
remember, they lost. Remember, they lost Dante.
yeah, they don't have Dante DiVincenzo. He's
So
he's a warrior
that's
now.
a big part of their offense is gone.
Yeah, and that's just another defender. That's another ball handler. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they still made some moves. They're still right there. I think arguably looking at those, that's probably the two of the three best teams in the East right now. And notice, we've gone through these games. We made it to what, the Thursday national TV.
I already
We
know
have
where you're
not
going.
seen
I already
one.
know where you're going.
We have not seen
I
one Brooklyn Nets signing.
already know where you're going.
Not one.
Yep.
So that tells you everything you need to know about how the league feels about Brooklyn right now.
They haven't given us any reason to feel otherwise.
They got so much to prove, from coaching to the roster
And
to
that's
whatever.
fair. Like I said, and
It
that's
is fair.
fair. They haven't
They
given
were
us
supposed to
any
win the
reason.
title last year, right?
Right. They haven't given us any reason to feel otherwise. That is
None.
that's a fair assumption going into the season.
And I think that's what makes them dangerous. Is that
Ah,
nobody's checking for them. They still got a good roster. They still got a good roster.
yeah,
They're still athletic. Ben Simmons is back, and he's shown that he can do something. Granted, it's been in limited action, but
yeah.
he looks healthy. I think even though he fouled out in 12 minutes, so we know he can hack like hell. So
Did
yeah,
they did Brooklyn win that game?
I didn't. I just saw that he fouled out.
I meant to look that up. I saw that he fouled out because, in my opinion, I'm like, bruh, if Brooklyn won that game,
Mm,
kudos.
yeah,
Like that's what's meant to happen. Because the one thing that I think about when it comes to Brooklyn right now, you have Kevin Durant, you have Kyrie Irving,
yeah.
two of the most prolific scorers in the league, two of the most prolific scorers in league history, if you really
And the
want to
greatest
look at it.
ball handler ever.
Exactly. So you have these guys that are so offensively skilled, so offensively talented. You bring in a Ben Simmons, who is arguably one of the best defensive players in the league
Yeah.
at the moment. Think about what he does for that team. Everybody's like, oh, free throws and layups, and oh, he won't take threes and this and that. Did y'all see what he did to Giannis a few days ago?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's not there to score. You bring him in and he held Giannis to what I think it was below like 40%.
It was like 4 for 16 or something.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
shot like he held
it was
out so
about
below 30%. It was about 25%. So he
Is
shuts
he
yeah,
the Draymond Green of Brooklyn?
I do think he could be.
Now
And
is he about to knock the hell out of Patty Mills though?
Patty Mills will whoop his ass.
Well,
But no,
wait a minute. They're Aussies. I forgot. So maybe they won't come to blows. I don't know.
I mean Draymond and Jordan Poole are both American.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. We'll
No,
see. I
so
don't know. I don't know. But
but the thing that I loved about that though is if you watch that game, Ben Simmons was out there with one, and when I say watch that game, I mean the one where they played Milwaukee. Ben Simmons was out there with one goal in mind. He wanted to shut Giannis down
and he's got
as
that
much as
ability.
possible.
Yeah.
And with him doing that, people don't understand. It was twofold. Not only did he shut Giannis down, he also gave so much effort on the defensive end
Yeah.
that it gave Kevin Durant and Kyrie a break
Yeah.
so that on the offensive end, they could go out there and tear things down. So
And they need
every
that.
every
They need that.
single every single player on a basketball court fills a mold. And Ben Simmons, now that he's actually on the floor for Brooklyn, as much as I hate to say it, that is a problem for the rest of the league. That's
Yeah.
a big problem.
Yeah. And it lets you know too where he's at physically for him to, because everybody knows like offense sells tickets, but
Defense.
defense, everybody, defense wins championships, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Defense is where you separate, you know, who really wants it or not.
Right.
Defense is about desire, just
Yep.
about want to,
Yeah,
right?
dog.
If he's willing to go out there and he's willing to defend, it's like, yeah, you got to be in shape to go up and down and score at a high level, but you got to be in great shape to defend too. And
Right.
for him to go out there and say, you know what, I'm gonna take Giannis. I don't care if it's preseason, and he's out there busting his ass and doing his thing. Like, look, that lets you know what kind of shape he's getting into if he's not in peak shape yet,
Yep.
and what he can do for Brooklyn. So
Right.
even though they don't have a game in this tip off schedule for the first week of the season, they don't have a game on ESPN or TNT. I still think they're on the periphery, but don't be surprised if later in the year where you start to see more Nets games getting flexed in because they're going to be good probably. Um,
Absolutely.
so lastly, we got Celtics Heat on Friday, and we got Nuggets Warriors. Now, granted, by this time we've already seen the Warriors. This will be what, the second game for them. It'll be the
Mm.
second game for the Celtics in that week, at least on national TV. But we will get our first look at Miami, and we get our first look at Denver. So Celtics Heat, James, who you got Friday?
Celtics Heat. The thing I love about that is we're looking at a conference finals rematch. And I think Miami is going to come out with something to prove. Um, Miami went down, they went down in the conference finals last year, down in game 7, but they fought till the end. And if you again, I still feel like 1 week into the season, Boston is going to have to put in some work. I'm give me Miami. I
I'm gonna take Boston.
yeah,
I think Boston as constituted, even with Robert Williams out, I think
mm,
Boston as constituted, I think they could beat the Heat. I think they have a little more talent top to bottom, even though you got Adebayo and Jimmy Butler and all them. I still
out
think
of
like
Bio, Butler, Lowry, Hero.
I think I think I think Boston probably wins that game. I'm gonna go Boston there. I'm really interested to see
Are
the
we looking?
nightcap.
Is this game in Boston or Miami?
I think it's Miami. Yeah.
I'm taking Miami.
Yeah. The energy will be high for that one. I think the Celtics may be, I
This
think
is
they're more
this is
talented top
their
to bottom, but yeah.
this is their season opener. It's their home opener, and it's against the team that knocked them out. Give me Miami.
Yeah.
I think Miami is going to come in with that dog, and I guarantee it's not going to have anything to do with old Yeller on the bench.
Yeah.
Udonis Haslam.
He is
Is
an old yeller.
yeah, he lit no. Well, I don't even know if he can yell anymore. What you say about the nightcap again? Bump his old ass. Keep going. Go.
I think honestly, like with that, I'm willing. I'm ready to see the improvements that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are, have made over the offseason. That's one thing over these first couple games for them. I'm interested to see, because the question for Jason Tatum is he going to be a guy that takes that next step to where he takes over games late consistently?
I
So
think the
far
big
he's kind of shied away from that, and
I
he hasn't
think
played his best in the big moment.
I think the big thing for them, honestly, and I do agree with you, but I think the big thing for them is going to be these are both of their stars are under 25 years old. I want to see how they recoup from everything that's happened over the summer.
Yeah,
Like, when is the last time that we've seen stars of their caliber at their age have to deal with the drama that they've had to deal with over the summer?
right.
Like, dealing with an Ime Udoka, dealing with a Robert Williams, dealing with a Danilo Gallinari, like all of this stuff that they've had to deal with. Then you throw into the media everything that's been trying to split the two of them apart.
Yeah,
There's been so much for them. And I mean, it's not even a knock to say that they can't handle it. I just think going into a season this early with all of that over the summer, they can possibly handle it. I just don't think they'll handle it yet.
yeah, and I
I
think,
I
yeah, like I think one key thing, like we talked about it with Dallas in the West, with
mm,
Boston, I think the key for them is not only like dealing with the Udoka situation, dealing with injuries, and incorporating new guys. Is you can make the argument that, like the Mavericks, maybe Boston got lucky. They dealt with they faced some teams that were injured. There were some injuries to some key guys. Chris Middleton gets hurt. Like Miami's kind of, you know what I mean? Like they get there and they get to the finals, and it's like, yeah, like, obviously you can't worry about other teams and their injuries and all that. You have to win those
yeah,
games to get where you're at.
you play who's in front of you.
But when you look at the East, top to bottom, like you have to wonder, okay, these teams are gonna be back at their full complement. Is Boston gonna still be? Are they still capable of getting where they got to last year? Or are they going to take a step back because other teams have gotten better? Because a lot of
No,
these
that's why.
teams that added new players, like they're not going to be at the same disadvantages that the Celtics will be to start out the year. Like you won't have Gallinari, you won't have Robert Williams. Like you're still adding new guys. You're getting used to another guy bumping up his seat from being assistant to the head coach for the year. Like
No, but
there's
no,
a
that
lot going on there.
no, and with all that in mind, I got to remind you, you took Boston in this game.
I
I
did.
told you,
I
I'm
did.
taking Miami. I'm
I
Miami.
did. I just I'm just saying, like, in terms of looking at the Celtics, like just as they made the finals last year, I would not be surprised if there was like some like real slippage to
Of
where
course,
you're like, okay, like it may take a while for them to get going, but
no,
I'm wondering now, like,
it's
how
gonna.
good will they be once they get to like where everybody's kind of healthy and rolling? Like I'm interested to see how they
But
do.
the question now too is, are they gonna get there?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
no, Miami's gonna start that ball rolling for the season on
right.
Boston. I think I don't even think it's going to be a thing where Boston is going to struggle all season. I think Boston is going to have a streak at some point in the season where they're doing really well.
Yeah,
The problem is going to be it's going to take them too long to get there.
yeah,
So this is, the Laker fan in me. I'm not even trying to throw shade at Boston. I'm being as realistic as possible. I think that everything going on with Boston, they're already below the curve and they're going to be fighting to get back to where they were. And by the time they get there, I feel like, just like you said, with a Philly, with a Miami, with a Milwaukee, all these other teams that are building their way up, with a Brooklyn, all these teams that are there, by the time Boston gets up to where they need to be, those other teams are going to be leaps and bounds ahead.
yeah,
So
and
I
yeah,
think that's going to serve to be a problem for Boston.
yeah, and I think they're in a spot, given everything that they added and where they are. Best case scenario is going to be just how it was last year, where nobody had Boston getting where they got last year. They kind of peaked at the right time, and a lot of things broke right for them to get to the finals, and they were 2 wins away from winning it. So, I there'll be a team to watch, but for a lot of different reasons. Now,
Yeah.
lastly, Nuggets Warriors. That's an intriguing matchup because they'll have Nuggets will be back. They got the two-time MVP Nikola Jokic there. They got Jamal Murray coming back. They got Michael Porter Jr. coming back. Like Denver was a sexy pick to make the finals last year.
Right.
Like a lot of people like Denver.
Yeah.
Jokic, winning MVP, for the second time. Uh, he had one of the great statistical seasons that a player's ever had in the league. So I I like Denver. I don't love Denver. But I think
You
Golden State
mean
wins
you
that
you
game.
mean in this game or overall? Like
Overall, I
season
think I
wise.
think
Okay.
lately, like everybody's kind of waiting for the Nuggets to take that step. But for
Okay.
me, it's just to me, it's not even offensively, they're up there with everybody. They can give anybody fits. The question for me is defense. None
Yeah.
of those players are great defensively.
Their team is small.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah, like
I know that's crazy, when your center is damn near 7 feet tall.
yeah.
But no, their team is small defensively.
Yeah.
And I agree
It's
with
not
you
a
on
very
that.
athletic team defensively.
Yeah, they're and for those reasons, I'm also picking Golden State in that
Yeah.
game because, like, again, we were talking about it before. Like when you have guys on the court that can, bounce around, pick and pop, and move nonstop. If you don't have guys that can keep up with them, the game is going to be over before it starts. So I think Golden State takes that game. I think it's going to be a game by at least 10, 15. I
I
don't
think
think
it'll
it's
be tight.
I don't think so. I
I think
I,
it'll be
I
tight. I think it might be one of those games. Like I think Denver will show up ready to play, but
Denver
I think
Denver's
Golden
going
State still
Denver
wins.
Denver's going to show up ready to play, but by the end of 3, Golden State's going to be like, y'all are who we thought y'all were.
Well, you said at the end of three. That's usually the Warriors' quarter, so
Yeah.
it could get away from them if they come in half step.
Golden State's going to take it. Like I said, it's going to be a double digit game.
Yeah.
That's my call on that Friday night game. Golden State is going to beat Denver by double digits. Even if it's 10, even if it's 11, they're going to beat them by double digits.
Okay, that's fair. And so looking at these games, man, it's a lot to get excited about for this first week. NBA tipping off has been a long off season. A lot of stuff being said, moves being made, a lot of questions going into the season. So as a fan, I'm ecstatic for it. Can't wait to
Everybody.
see how
Like,
all these teams do. Can't wait to see how my Mavs do. Excited about them this year. Intrigued by the Lakers. Just to see how they come out. See LeBron's quest to topple Kareem's scoring record. I'm looking at that.
it'll be done by February.
Yeah, it'll definitely be done this year,
It'll
especially
be
if
it'll be
LeBron
done.
doesn't get hurt or anything like
It'll
that.
be actually I'm a stretch that out a little bit just because of the breaks and him probably taking games off. I'm gonna say it's gonna be done by March 10th.
March 10th. Okay, we'll
March
write
10th.
that down.
Yeah.
March 10th.
March 10th. He'll break
LeBron
the
getting the
record
record.
by March 10th.
And I mean, this is obviously we're coming up on the end here, but Bron breaking this record for Kareem. That was a record I thought would never be broken. And the fact that a guy who isn't really like he scores a lot of points, but you wouldn't put him in the same class as a scorer as like guys that like go out and get buckets all the time. Like you
It
don't when you look
doesn't
at James Harden or you look at guys like even Steph Curry, like guys that put the ball in the hole at a high clip, like LeBron does it more so from a consistency standpoint. It's not that he's out here scoring 40 and 50. It's the
it
fact that
doesn't
he's scoring 20 to 25
yeah,
more consistently than most.
it doesn't surprise me so much because of the fact, like, just everything is changing.
Yeah.
Like we look at the fact that which I think an outstanding fact that Kareem set this record with no 3-pointers.
Right.
That to me is more astounding than anything. And I think that even when LeBron breaks this record, notice I didn't say if.
Oh, it's gonna happen.
Even when LeBron breaks this record, I think that people better still keep Kareem in mind because of that fact.
Yeah.
That he will be second all time in league history and never sank a 3-pointer in his career. I think that is absolutely amazing. Like, and then you look at it, like you look at what LeBron is about to do. All of these things take amazing accomplishments. LeBron is going to do this. It took him 20 years in the league, and at no point in his career did he play fewer than what I think his shortest season was, what, like maybe 55, 60 games, something like that.
Yeah.
So you're looking at it, it's all about longevity. And that even goes into that argument now where people talk about, like, we could start up again about the whole load management thing.
Hey, James.
Like,
So
yeah.
so I gotta say this.
Uh,
I got curious. I just looked it up. Kareem has one career 3-pointer.
I could have swore they said he never
went
made one.
he went 1 for 3 during the 86-87 season.
Really?
That was at age 39. He started in all 78 games that he played.
Wow.
He went 1 for 3. That was his only 3-pointer of his career. He finished one of 18
I could
for
have
his career from
swore
three.
they said he never made one. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So
Learning.
and I don't think people you know, I don't think people give Kareem enough credit, like obviously about putting the ball in the hole. So didn't attempt a 3-pointer until 1979-80. So it's like the first time the three was
Well, I was about to
even
say,
there.
yeah.
So by that time, Kareem was already 32.
Right.
And so you're looking at it now, and it's like he made free throws and he put the ball in the hole. He was a career 72% free throw shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of big men shot the ball from the free throw line with that kind of success to be as tall as Kareem was at 7'2".
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, 1 for 18 career from three. So I thought that was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But like,
did you see super random talking about threes and scoring and everything? Did you see that stat that came out about Shaq the other day?
no.
So I always got to throw in these random, like, did you know things. Is that Shaq is the only player in league history to lead the league in scoring with no threes accounted for during that season, and he did it twice.
Mm-hmm.
So twice in Shaq's career, he was the league leader in scoring with no threes accounted for in his scoring total.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, I mean, that's huge. I mean, look at, like, with Kareem, right?
Mm.
Like, Kareem's career started in 1969-70.
Right.
Probably the greatest rookie year ever.
Oh, definitely.
He averaged 28.8 points and 14.5 rebounds.
Yeah.
Next year, it was 31 a game.
And then it was like 4 or 5 assists too, right?
Yeah, 4.1 assists.
Yeah.
He averaged over 5 assists one time in his career.
Yeah.
3 times he averaged 5 assists. But his minimum, so like what? His career best, his third season, he averaged 34.8 points and 16.6 rebounds at age 24. That was 1971-72. His worst year was his last year scoring the ball. By that time, he was 41.
At some point, he averaged almost 17 rebounds.
Yeah,
I think it was 16.
He averaged, his career best was 1975-76.
Yeah,
just under 17 rebounds.
It was when he just went to the Lakers.
Yep. first year in LA.
Yeah.
27.7, almost 28 points a game, 17 rebounds, 5 assists a game, and over 4 blocks. So Kareem was that dude.
Absolutely,
His
man.
worst year in the league was his last year in the league at age 41.
As expected.
And he averaged 10 points, 4.5 rebounds. So
Right.
yeah. So that's that's just kind of a quick little, thing to acknowledge. Like, it's one thing to be a prolific scorer. It's another thing to do it for as long as LeBron did it, for as long as Kareem did it. So it's a hell of an accomplishment for LeBron when he gets there. So that being said, man, look, we it felt good to be back here and doing
Yes,
this for you
sir.
guys. I hadn't been a part of an episode since like the end of August, so I'm glad that I was able to get back on this, man, and we're like I said before, we're ready for the season to tip off, so we can talk more hoops, man. But as I mentioned earlier, you guys know where to find us now. Obviously, you know about Spotify, you know about Anchor. But we are on more platforms, as I mentioned earlier in this podcast. You can find us on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher. We're on Overcast, Amazon Music. As you guys know, we're already on YouTube, and our newest platform is iHeartRadio. So you can find us pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. If you want to follow us personally, we're at the JWJ Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. Like us on Facebook at the JWJ Podcast. If you'd like to follow us more personally, you can follow James at Titletown's Mayor. That's TitleTownzMayor. And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at It's a Thomas Thing. So with that being said, thank you guys for listening. And we look forward to doing more episodes. That's pretty much it, man. It feels good to be back. And we look forward to doing more of these for you guys. Thank you so much for listening to JWJ.
Nice.
Hey, bye. Love you. Bye.